Now, with the main news, here's Peggy Walker. Good morning, Peg.
Thank you, Toby. Good morning. Well, yes, HS2 campaigners in South Yorkshire do want to go to court. They want a judicial review where a judge would examine the decision-making process of the high-speed rail line. People in parts of Rotherham and Doncaster, especially places like Mexborough and Bramley, are not happy with the plans for HS2, as we know. Local councillor Sean Gibbons from the Mexborough First Party is putting his money where his mouth is.
I'm more than willing to put in 1 month of my members' allowance to actually help this cause. I really care about Mexborough with my colleagues, and I just think it's an absolute disgrace that we're in this position. These people are actually looking at losing tens of thousands of pounds, maybe more, and their livelihoods have just been turned upside down, and we will not tolerate it.
Well, it means the controversial route changes announced last year could be the subject of a long legal fight now. Mexborough farmer Graham Schofield is one of those backing the case. He's not impressed with how HS2 have treated him.
Oh yeah, I've been out there. They couldn't answer questions, they couldn't even find us on maps. They've never been able to answer many questions. It's just pie in the sky, to be honest with you. You couldn't run a business like it. No way could you run a business like that. You'd be bankrupt in a week.
Well, we'll get deeper into the HS2 argument with Toby after this bulletin.
First things first, it's all going crackers on HS2 in Mexborough. Who knew? As we've been telling you for months, people in places, in parts of Rotherham and Doncaster, like Mexborough, like Bramley, they're unhappy with these HS2 plans. It's not going to happen for ages, if ever. Now, various campaigns have come together to try to force a judicial review, a legal process saying HS2 has not followed procedures correctly. It means the controversial route changes announced last year could now be the subject of a long legal fight. Our Doncaster reporter Kevin Larkin, Kevlar to his mates, met some of those who've been backing the action.
The first time they came up, they expected us walking in with pigeons in one hand, whippet in the other hand, flat cap, and a stick as 2 short planks. Well, they're in for a shock.
Graham Schofield and his family have farmed in Mexborough for generations. Now they're taking HS2 to court in a judicial review. It won't challenge HS2's plans directly, but it does question whether the rail firm has followed procedures correctly. I asked Graham and his brother Tom if they think HS2 is guilty of maladministration.
Oh yeah, I've been out there. They couldn't answer questions, they couldn't even find us on maps. They've never been able to answer many questions. It's just pie in the sky, to be honest with you. You couldn't run a business like it. No way could you run a business like that. You'd be bankrupt in a week. The only reason they knew we was there is because my wife got in touch with him and she got an email back saying, you're 0 metres, it's going straight through your property, full stop. And we've had nothing since.
Nothing at all?
Nothing. We've had nothing since. We've had a letter which doesn't say that it's going to be demolitioned or anything like that, but the letter come with the wrong address on. Somebody had to get me from somewhere else. They haven't got the answers to give you. Like a friend of ours, her mother's 85, and they're frightened her to death. Just sent a letter through a letterbox. Your house is going to be knocked down. That's not good practice, is it?
And is this why you've now taken a legal route?
Yeah, definitely. There's me, a lot of other families, and that it's going to cost money, but at the same time, it's going to cost us money. Choose what, so what do you do?
Well, what do? You go to court. HS2 wouldn't comment, of course. They said, no. You need to speak to the Department for Transport. We went there. They said, no. The department does not comment on potential or ongoing legal proceedings. So we thought, well, who will comment? Jonathan Pyle from Yorkshire Against HS2 is on the line. Jonathan, good morning.
Good morning, Toby. Good morning, Amy. How are you today?
Everybody's lovely, thank you. Tell us what your grounds are for going to court.
Well, yes, this has been a complete Horlicks, hasn't it? The whole process that we've been experiencing, the communities in Mexborough, my own community in Crofton in West Yorkshire, have gone through really a really terrible time since July. And so the grounds that we're actually looking for, we've been talking in Crofton to barrister since around November time, and we are looking at the issues around maladministration, but we're also looking, there's new information that's occurring every single day. So you're a very plain-speaking man, and if you found out that all of this upset that we've had since July was actually unnecessary, what would you say to that if you found out about that?
We'll have to find out about that. I'd be very, annoyed and disappointed. But would that make it a legal issue? Just the fact that some people have been upset?
Well, no, it is. It's much more than the upset that's happened to the communities. This is the whole question of the future of the route for South Yorkshire and the whole of Yorkshire itself. So I had a meeting with Alistair Hassan, the head of route engineering at HS2, on the 17th of November, and he confirmed to me that in fact the Meadowhall route, which was the consulted route, that route was. It was perfectly viable to actually connect that route to the Sheffield Midland station. And they had, HS2 Limited had overlooked, in fact it had not occurred to them to actually adapt the existing route to work with Meadowhall station and connect it along the Sheffield Midland line. And you can imagine how surprised I was at that statement. And so we feel that HS2 Limited have been tasked by the government to find the best route, and they ignored the most viable route, which would have actually meant that people from Sheffield could get to Leeds very, very quick. It's a shorter route, and they had actually missed the most viable of the route options.
Now, as somebody who's had to employ a barrister once in my life, I would say if he's listening to this morning, he's doing it through a gold-plated radio in the back of his jacuzzi, in his Rolls-Royce, being driven to work. They're not cheap, are they?
Not at all, not at all. So we've thought hard and long about this process, and it is a long road. And one of the key things that our campaign has identified that we need to do is to actually protect our costs. So that it's important that the community campaign, none of us are rich people, that we actually have something called a PCO, a protected cost order, to make sure that we don't end up paying HS2's legal bills, and that as a community that we have that protection. Obviously, we have our costs to cover, and we've combined with residents in Mexborough and people here in Crofton to put this together. And so, lawyers are not cheap.
Look, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us, Jonathan. We shall watch this as it runs, and indeed runs. That's Jonathan Powell there from Yorkshire Against HS2.